I'm Steve, and welcome to another exciting Elev8 where we sit down with some cool ass artists in this industry. First, we have this really cool ambassador program. You can join as an Elev8 doll or an Elev8 gent, and it's really awesome. You get to help us build Elev8. It's super unique, super special, and you're really a part of something special. Check out Elev8ambassador.com to learn more. Another cool thing we have is our Elev8 Veterans program. I'm really honored to be a part of it. Teresa helps run it, and it's super awesome. We get to rehabilitate and reacclimate veterans into society our way. And you know what? I think we're doing it right. Go check it out at Elev8veterans.com. Third, there's Elev8 Bingo. It's super cool, super fun, and we get to show you more of what we do. And on top of that, every game there's a chance to win $50 credits for Elev8glassgallery.com. Go check it out. And now, let's roll into this super awesome Elev8. Well, we got Jeff Ballard here on Elev8. Thanks a lot for joining us, Jeff.
Thanks for having me.
So you do all kinds of glass. It looks like you're more into soft glass, right?
Definitely, yeah. I started in soft glass way back when, like 25 years ago. Only recently did I even really start doing any boro. Pretty much during the pandemic when we shut our furnace down. Had my studio mate Joe, Big Sting Glass. He's been in the boro world since the 90s, and then switched over to soft glass. So I had him show me a bunch of stuff on the torch just to keep me being creative while we had the furnace shut off and stuff.
Right. Like I mean, I haven't done any soft glass, but I know if I couldn't blow glass, it'd be like, what the fuck? So you found a way to make it happen at least.
Yeah. It was great. It was really cool. And it's helped out a lot because, I make all my own down stems, so now I can do custom down stems. I've made, can make some dry pipes here and there now. And it's just like another way, another creative outlet. And it's been super humbling learning boro because it's just a whole nother type of, the glass is so different from soft glass.
Yeah.
It's tough.
And I don't know anything, again, too much about soft glass other than it seems to melt sooner and stay juicier a lot longer. And then you can't keep putting it back in and out the kiln, right?
Yeah, you pretty much are working on it like while you have it. It's you can't just like heat a section of it and let it get cold and just work a section and then maybe slowly move your heat around from something that's cold to hot. Like it doesn't take thermal shock very well. So you got to constantly keep it warm.
The whole piece.
Which means that's why you have like a glory hole basically, or a reheating chamber where as it's cooling, you probably have a minute to a minute and a half sometimes to work it, which is a really long time till it gets solid. And then you got to go back into the hole, reheat it, get the whole thing hot again and come back and work it. But we also, because we're doing it more like boro style, we're using torches to heat specific areas, but you still have to keep flashing it to keep the whole thing warm. And then you put the whole thing away. There's definitely no like putting it away, taking a smoke break, coming back, pulling it out of the kiln and starting to work on it again. There's not this like, I feel like when you're working boro, you're like putting something in the kiln and then you got to wait a few minutes, you got to let it heat back up, pull it back out, work on it a little more. There's none of that. You're just doing it from beginning to end as you start from finish.
Maybe your pieces are in soft glass. I don't want to use the term more simple, but I can't think of anything else where maybe boro can be more attachments, more complicated.
So that's something that we've changed is normally when someone goes in and they make just like a soft glass vessel of some kind, right? They're going to go in, they're going to start the process, most likely in a basic way. They're going to start the process, they're going to finish it, and they're going to basically have a finished piece when they're done in one sitting. Mm-hmm. What we're doing is we're making parts, and then we're dissecting those parts up, reassembling them, doing a lot of cold working, picking stuff back up out of the kiln, reworking that, making like the can, and then pulling some tubing, cutting that up, reassembling that, and making the stems, and then making all the ground joints separate. And then everything gets all cold work, and then it gets all put into the kiln, brought back up to temperature, and then all put together hot. So it's, the time that you're waiting in boro, like where you stick it in the kiln, go have the smoke, come back, and then start working on it again. Those are actually like whole days that we have to wait, basically, because once we do a part, we have to cool it down in the oven, and annealing for us is like, maybe 5 to 12 hours minimum.
Wow.
So then we're coming back the next
longer.
day, cold working, bringing it back up in a kiln. So there's all this time in between that's just like a longer period, but we're doing it over, maybe 4 or 5 different blow sessions, putting all these things together. So it is super complex. It's just spread out over a really long period of time.
Wow. And does it take longer for the kiln to heat up then? So it's heating up at a much slower ramp up?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you got to bring it up kind of slow, depending on what you're working on. If it's just, a couple of stacked cylinders that I'm trying to fuse to pick up a can or something like that, that'll be as quick as I can get the kiln to come up. But once you've got something that's fused and shaped, like when I'm getting ready to pick the cans up to do all the attachments, I do that overnight.
Wow.
It's like 8 hours to come up to temperature.
Man, that's so neat. So it is kind of like boro, yet totally different.
Yeah.
Yeah. How did you actually get started into glass? And you said this was like 20 some years ago you got into this?
Yeah, it was in college, actually. I went to the University of Illinois, and I was kind of a slacker, and I couldn't get into graphic design. So I had to choose another major. And I just looked down this list of all the different majors, and it was all this normal stuff like photography, painting, etching, ceramics. And then I saw glass blowing on there, and I was like, what the fuck is that? Like, I have no idea what that is. I was like, I'll do that as my major.
No idea of glass. You didn't like?
I never even had contemplated that at one point, like the glass I was drinking out of was molten at one point, like liquid.
Right. Is
never
that crazy how like we go through our lives and we're just like, oh, this is just, everything is almost magic, right? From a glass to a cell phone to
exactly. Yeah. What goes into it? And so like, for my thought was, oh, I'll just do this for a semester and then I'll reapply to the graphic design program. And I saw it and I was just like floored instantly. The pyro in me was like, holy shit, I have to do this. Some lady told me she sold a vase for $300. I was like, holy shit. I was like, this is super cool. You can make money doing it. I was like, it was everything. And I could go to college for it. I was like, holy shit, I'm going to college for this.
Right.
Like sneaking off and making bongs like on the side and little nug jars and stuff. So it was, it was instantly, I was hooked instantly.
And what year was that when you started?
That was 96. So I graduated high school in 95. So that was 96. Yeah.
Right on, man. That's so we graduated about the same time. I graduated 96. So you're 1 year ahead of me, man. That's so neat, man. You had that in your school to open up that opportunity, and here you are 20 some years later, still doing it. And then I guess you use your name. Did you have mentors? I guess you had a class. Did you have a particular teacher that really stuck out to you and a mentor that you were able to really help you?
I mean, I would say, for so many people, like throughout the years that have had little bits here and there that have sort of shaped my ideas about how I approach things and how I work. There's no one person in particular. There was a guy, Greg Fiddler, in college, who, when I was getting ready, he was in a master's program and I was undergrad, and I was like, what should I do? I'm getting ready to graduate. Like, what should I be looking for? What kind of job should I get? And he was like, get a job doing production that gives you time to make your own stuff and experiment. And I was like, okay, that sounds cool. And so I found that kind of job, and it was exactly what I needed. And I just did product. I mean, when I graduated from college, I honestly could barely blow glass. I had done it for like 4 years or 5 years, and I was pretty terrible, or at least I felt like I was pretty terrible.
Why do you think that was, coming out of a college where you're paying good money to go to, and you didn't feel like you had the glass blowing skills? Because you must have had other skills and maybe other knowledge that you had gained.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, definitely it was worth it. But I think the problem back then, and it still may be an issue, is that the program was focused more on conceptual art than it was on technique. So we did get some technical, instruction, but it was very limited.
So do you wish it was backwards, where it was more technique mixed in with the?
I think they could have done a better job balancing it. Yeah. And I've seen that, throughout, especially back then. I think it was a bigger deal. And I think now there's probably more programs that are aimed at doing a lot of both. You see a lot of really technically proficient people coming out of college programs these days, but that really wasn't the case when I went to school. So I was pretty unconfident. So I just spent like 10 years after that just doing production.
But you found a studios to
do
production?
I worked at like 3 or 4 different studios over that 10 years. And that was like how I really honed my skills.
And I haven't done much soft glass, but my understanding is the soft glass facilities, you're usually working with more people. While you can do your own stuff, there's a lot more people in there because the furnaces take a lot of heat to keep going. And
yeah, definitely. Especially in a production setting, usually you've got 3 or 4 people working at the same time. Sometimes there'd be somebody that would just start bubbles and then get the color on and get everything ready and then hand it off. And then that next person would finish it with an assistant. And so there'd be like we worked in a 3-person crew most of the time.
Wow.
Just cranking stuff out, same pieces all day long.
Right.
And it would change day by day.
It really refined your skills because and even the changes, and to keep something the same is, I think, harder than to just make it in, hard stuff.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, it was pretty crucial to being able to work efficiently and to be able to eyeball stuff and make things the same every time. It was like invaluable.
And I love what you said there. It's invaluable. So, and that's the thing. You got to build even though you got a knife, if it doesn't have a sharpened blade on it, it's just tough to use it. And and that's what production does. Wax on, wax off. And now you're doing stuff that almost you wouldn't think is possible with soft glass, cutting it, fusing it, doing like, it's just crazy.
Yeah. It's been a long road, but finally it was really kind of it's like everybody's always thought of soft glass in the paraphernalia world as like, the organic sort of dropped out bulbous bongs with big chunky stuff stuck on them and things like that, like a lot of the Chinese stuff or some of the more production-y stuff that's coming out of the States.
And that's why I said the word simple, because it's just kind of a big, nice flow. Not that it's bad. It's just kind of a simple flow that happens at one time. Exactly.
So what we've done, and it was really Joe Big Spin Glass, who is like, he's like, we can start making rigs now. He's like, we should start seeing what's up with this, because before it was like we had talked about it for years. And I made bongs in college and just dabbled here and there. I never really, I was really focused on the fine art side of it and conceptual sculpture and all of this stuff and dealing with the galleries and whatever. And he's like, I think we can start trying to do this and kind of almost mimic what's going on in the Boro world, but with soft glass. And it was the fact that like down stems were removable is really kind of what paved the way for us to be able to do what we're doing, because that mitigates all the heat transfer into the piece. And so the piece can be soft glass and never get hot while you've got your banger hanging on the down stem, and it just works out perfect.
So
we just had to refine our techniques to get to the point where we were making them so that they were clean enough to be put in with everything else, and almost not fake people out or fool people, but just, like have something that's comparable, but different.
Right. And I think that's what it is. Like, everybody wants to be different, and because we're all unique creatures, and to have, and you're kind of doing something totally different. So to have that soft glass, not that it's like Boro, it's different, and it's just completely different. And there it is. So
yeah,
that's pretty cool. Where do you get your inspiration and creativity for your glass and all your art?
I mean, most of it probably stems from like when I said before how like when I graduated from college, I didn't really know how to blow glass. So it was like a long road to get to where I felt like my skills were good enough that I wasn't really limited by my skills. I would be limited by either some other aspect of the craft. So I think it was like Italian, like Venetian techniques, and then probably a lot of Scandinavian design type stuff. They have really clean, simple design. You know, a lot of the Italian stuff can be really gaudy, but the technique is super, super on point. So I think a combination of those two styles, is probably most influential.
Nice. What are your favorite items to actually produce? I would say blow, but I guess you're doing all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I really just I love making rigs. It's really cool because it's challenging. It's different every time. I get to just play with design and color, which I haven't done in a long time. Like if you've seen any of my old sculptural work, I mean, for years I was just making like realistic glass pillows. And that was when I would go into the shop, I would make a pillow that went to a sculpture that was with like all these other found objects. And I made fucking pillows for years. And they were always white. It was like the same thing every time. And I'm like, wow, glass blowing is just a means to an end now. It's like, I'm not even enjoying the process anymore. And the whole point and the whole reason I liked it originally was because of the process. Like I want to get lost in the making of the piece.
So the creativity, you know, and that's like whatever that whole other side of your brain is just creating. We're humans. We got these little things right here to help us create. And totally. So that's you feeling it, that if you're not creating, you're kind of not doing your passion.
Yeah. I just wasn't enjoying the actual glass blowing part of it. And I was like, man, so it was like the timing was really good. And I was getting disillusioned with the whole fine art market and the gallery scene. And I'd been, you know, yeah. So it was just, the timing was really right for it. And so I love making rigs.
And so that's another thing, you know, on our side, the Boro side, it's taken 20 some years to get a color palette, and it's pretty decent now. But y'all have in soft glass, it's phenomenal. And like, so you get to bring that to the table in a rig with colors and glass that just never existed before.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a huge advantage, I think. With doing the soft glass is the color palette. Now we don't have a lot of like the newer stuff, like the transitional colors, the CFL colors and stuff like that. There's some people that are playing around with that, but there's nothing like commercially available that's consistent.
Right. You guys got glow in the dark stuff or not?
Yeah, a little bit. We got some UV stuff. It's all really sort of like on the periphery. It's not like available all the time. It's hit or miss. Some are better than others, but I've used some UV stuff that's pretty good. Most of the time I just steer away from that stuff because it's too hard to find or it's too inconsistent.
Right. So is that I guess the transitional and those things, while it's new in the Boro world, that's also fairly new in the soft glass world?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's the Boro world that influenced people to do that in soft glass.
Is that not fun? And sure. So I got to say that's cannabis, because without cannabis, the Boro 100%. World would not be here.
Yeah.
That's just so crazy.
It's awesome.
What's the most difficult piece that you have ever attempted?
Oh boy. That's a tricky one. God. Well, the first thing that comes to mind, it might not be the trickiest thing we ever had to make, but
you remember it as difficult.
I remember it as at the time thinking, holy shit, we're gonna do this. This is fucking weird and hard. So I work at Pilchuck every so often doing what's called gaffing or craftsperson in residence. And it's basically you're there for the whole session and your whole job is just to make work for other people, mostly for the instructors and for the artists in residence that are there.
Okay.
So every day they're just like, they come to you and they're like, can you make this? And you're like, yeah, sure. Or we can try. And so I was there when Mataskuki was teaching one year, and he comes to us. It was his turn to have us blow stuff for him. And he's like, I want to make these toilet paper tumblers. we're like, what? Toilet paper tumblers? So basically they looked like a toilet paper roll, white, but they were open on the top and they had the little cardboard tube on the inside. So it was almost like a donut, but it was sealed at the bottom. So all the liquid would go around on the outside. There'd be a hole through the whole thing in the middle, just like a regular. It was basically if you if you took a toilet paper roll, but it was hollow on the inside instead of, and through the middle. And it's really hard to explain, but basically it was a tube that looked like a cardboard with like the little spiral thing through it. So my buddy would make that while I made this cylinder that was open on one end completely, and then on the other end it was squared off and had a specific size hole on it. And so we had to encalmo that tube to the hole size on the other end through the inside of it, and then the two lips had to meet up perfectly. Like it didn't get cold work really at all, so it was super challenging just to get the hole sizes right, to get everything to look right, to get them to line up. I mean, I don't know how many we made, but I'm sure probably only like 2 out of 5 were good or usable.
Wow.
But that was a really fun project, and it was really challenging. And it kind of reminds me of some of the stuff that we're doing now as far as like fitting things and just trying to be really clean and precise with everything.
Do you think some of those experiences from that time helped influence and help like move you along what you're doing now?
Yeah, probably. I'm sure. I feel like everything has some impact. Just like every time I make anything, I'm just like, I'm learning something. And I think that's something that a lot of people get to a point and they're like, oh, I know everything I need to know or whatever. But I try to keep in mind that like, I'm always learning.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's what not to do. Sometimes it's what to do. But yeah, constantly.
Yeah. The learning of what to do sometimes is a lot cooler than what not to do, but, but you got to do both, So
yeah. 2 steps forward, 1 step back.
What's your favorite color to work with in, I guess, let me ask, in soft glass and Boro, that you have worked in Boro as well?
Okay. Soft glass is definitely Gaffer. G111 is salmon. Super cool color. It could be like this pale pink to this like creamy sort of orange salmon color. Super cool color. I fucking love it. I use it all the time. You'll see it in almost all the work that I do. And then Celadon is another color that I really love, specifically the Gaffer Celadon. I can't remember the number of it, but those 2 colors, and they go really well together. So you'll definitely see that poking through in all my stuff, I would say. For Boro, what have I been using? I like Lucid a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And then I've been playing around with some transitional ones, some gray that turns purple. I can't remember what it's called.
Like a magenta or something, I think.
Looks like a smoky gray, and then you put it under the CFL and it turns purple. It's fucking super cool.
Yeah, I think that's a North Star, a Troutman or something.
I think it's a North Star. Yeah.
Parallax, maybe. Parallax.
Maybe.
But you like it.
Something
It's a gray to purple. Yeah.
Yeah. And I've been playing around with I really like fuming a lot, but I'm like trying to fume color tube, and I'm doing like blow throughs and fuming and playing around with that with the transitional colors. So when you're looking through the CFL, it like all turns pink, but then when it's not, it's like gray and pink or whatever it is, if it's gold fume or orange and pink or whatever.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up. Have you done, or is there any fuming in soft glass like that?
Not really.
Huh.
No, I mean, I haven't played around with it, but as far as I know, it's not really possible.
Right.
There are things you can do like, what's it called? There is a fuming that you can do, but it's like stannous chloride is what it's called.
Yeah, and
it gives it like a opalescent kind of mother of pearl look.
Okay, I've seen something for Boro too, but it's like pretty dangerous or something I've heard, and maybe they're not the same thing.
Yeah, there's also these luster powders that they're selling now that I haven't really played with at all. that look kind of interesting, but it's not, yeah, some of those finishes are tricky. It's, you know, it's like working with dichro. It's like, I do it, but it's hard to make it look classy. Like
Right.
it can look cheesy sometimes, you know?
Right. If it doesn't like separate just right and the little chunk is here and it's separated over here, it's like,
yeah.
And that's hard to get it to all.
Yeah. Or you see the seams or something like that. Or like, you know, what I've been doing is I use dichro powder instead of sheets, and I just roll through powdered dichro.
Oh, wow. That's pretty cool.
So I can do that, and then I can just encase it, stretch it out, and make my tube, and then chop that up and use it.
Right.
It works really good.
Huh. Do you collaborate often? I guess in soft glass, it sounds like it's kind of a full collaboration.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could kind of say that just working in general is a collaboration because you're constantly working with somebody else. But I mean, I'd say that's the biggest downside right now doing soft glass, is that there's not really anybody else doing what we're doing. So there's really nobody to collaborate with. I mean, obviously my studio mate, Joe, who has the shop that I work out of, Big Spin Glass, he and I collaborate, but that's the only person I can collaborate with for the most part. I did do one collaboration with a guy named Mathieu Gradet. I don't know if you know who he is. He does boro and soft glass. He is also an amazing illustrator, so he'll paint on glass.
Oh, wow.
And so I did a collaboration with him where he did enamels on one of my rigs, and then we fired it on, so it's super permanent. Really, really cool. That guy's really cool. And then I also did recently a collab with this guy Cole Jenkins, who does paintings. And so he did a whole series of paintings where he has like a rig that sits on a pedestal that the painting is made based off of the rig.
Oh,
and
nice.
He did one.
So you made the rig first then to inspire the painting in a sense, but
yes,
it was his idea for the project. And wow.
Yeah, he knew what he wanted. He's like, I want a mint chocolate chip ice cream cone. He did one with salt. He did one with karma, sherbet, and I want to say somebody else, but he had like five or six of them at Glass Vegas. They were really cool.
Neat. Were you at Glass Vegas then?
Yeah. Yep.
Man, I had a little booth there, so I didn't get to leave much, but
I didn't either.
Yeah, you know how the shows go. I wish I would have got to see all your work there in person. So I'll be looking next time.
Nice.
Have you ever like competed in any events? Do they have events for soft glass?
Yeah, sometimes the museum in Tacoma, Washington used to do actually it started way before that place existed, but they would do what's called the Twisty Cup Pro-Am. And so it was a competition. There was a pro category and an amateur category, and you had to make a Twisty Cup, you know, like a ribbed optic molded. It's sort of like almost like a warm-up piece for soft glass blowing, or like a fundamentals sort of thing that incorporates a bunch of different stuff. Should be really thin, and should be able to feel the ribs. They should be at a certain angle. You know, ideally you could flex the cup slightly because it's so thin. All of these little things. And so they would judge based on like showmanship and quality of the cup, how quickly you made it, how many reheats it took to make it. So there was all these different categories. So I did that one year. I can't remember how I placed. It was probably fine, but
it was fun.
It was super. I mean, it's like everybody's just drinking and blowing glass. I mean, there's people like blowing glass in diapers and on roller skates, and I mean, it's just a shit show.
Right.
Super fun.
So the people in soft glass, there's some weirdos like in the boro world. And I'm not calling all of them because I fall myself in there a little bit, but
sure. Yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah. I mean,
it's hard.
Bunch of artsy pyros.
Yeah.
But yeah, the only other thing probably as far as competition would be my buddy Joe and I, Big Spin, we entered the collab category for the World Series of Glass last year and took third place, which was a total surprise because it was like we basically just didn't have enough room on our table to put everything. So we're like, well, what should we do? We got this last piece. We're like, well, let's just put it in the competition.
Right.
So Then we won a bunch of shit.
And what was that piece that you won with?
It was melting ice cream cone. So it was like this purple base that was all dichromed out, and then a bunch of his Marini. So he does a bunch of Millies or Marini sections, and we made the cone out of that.
Man.
Yeah, that came out real nice. It was a cool piece.
Well, congratulations on that.
Thanks. Yeah.
Do you have any hobbies outside of glass?
Yeah. I'm a very, very, very avid, addicted disc golfer.
All right.
Like big time. That's probably my number one hobby outside of glass blowing. Like I play tournaments, and I play at least a couple times a week.
Wow,
Tournaments
that's
on the
good.
weekends. Yeah, it's yeah. I don't know if my wife thinks it's good, but
but it's good for your health. It's good mentally and physically.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Oh yeah, I love it. You're getting outside, drink some beer, smoke some weed, throw some discs at metal. It's great.
right.
Other than that, I like to bike ride here and there a little bit. I like when we have snow. I love going snowboarding, but we just haven't had any snow really this year.
Yeah.
Kind of a crap year, but I'm actually getting ready to head to Colorado in a couple days to go to Winter Park and do some riding there.
Nice. That's where I'm at in the Springs. It's a few hours away, but yeah, Winter Park's a nice place out there.
Yeah, I was there a couple years ago, and it was amazing.
Yeah, nice. Well, you should have a great time.
I hope so. Yeah.
Well, you did mention that you do consume cannabis yourself. Do you prefer flowers, dabs, edibles, or just the whole plant?
Mostly flower. I'm a big doobie roller. 90% of the time, I'm probably puffing on doobies.
Smoking a joint, right?
Yeah. I mean, I do use a lot of dry pipes, especially like at the studio. But yeah, definitely that's like most of my consumption would be flower in the form of a joint.
Yeah, there's something about it, that's probably how you started out with joints.
Sure.
So it keeps you young.
I'm old, so
yeah.
Like I was, yeah. But I have a dab rig around that I use, and I always have some hash on hand. But it's just a lot more few and far between when I'm doing that.
Right. Nice. And then what can we look forward to in the future from you?
That's a good question. Hopefully, so the Glass Art Society conference is coming up in May, I believe. Yeah, May. So Big Spin and I are doing a demonstration for that. So we'll be putting a rig together at the Tacoma Museum of Glass during that whole thing. And then hopefully during that same time, we're going to have, it's still in the works, but we should be having some kind of pipe show during that in Seattle or in Tacoma.
Nice.
Yeah. And
so if anybody's around, go check you out at those events.
Yeah. That's still really we're still just in the works about talking about how we want to do it and who's going to be there. And but it should be really cool if we get it to happen.
Hell yeah, that's good, man. I wish you luck on that.
Thank you.
Do you still find that you have the same love and passion today as you did starting back in '96?
Yeah, I do actually. It's it's different now, but for sure. I mean, I look forward to I just can't wait to make the next thing. It's like the way that we work now is we actually figured out a way that we can basically have our furnace on, make a bunch of prep work, almost just like you would in Boro. We just make all of our tubing for like the next few months or whatever. And then we shut the furnace off, and then we can just work from that tubing. And then we have a little crucible inside of our glory hole. And so we can make all our punties and our collars for picking stuff up right out of that little crucible of clear glass. And then all of our other color and pattern is done. And so we're just chopping stuff up and reassembling it and then reshaping. And
so you can you might work on 10 to 20 rigs a day, but just in all kinds of different sections.
Yeah, it would never be that many. It's probably more like 4 parts a day, maybe. Like I'll do, or it could be more. It could be 4 to 6, maybe. Like I might have 6 stems that I'm getting, mouthpieces that I'm working on or something like that. And then like 6 ground joints or something. And then maybe the next day I'll be working on like four cans. I'll be picking them up and shaping those. So yeah, it will always be like a few different ones, which is why I usually have like, you'll always see when I finish a batch of work, it'll be like a bunch of stuff that's kind of along the same line. And then there'll always be these outliers that are like ones that don't necessarily fit with the rest of the group. And usually what that is after I've used all my material or most of it, I have all these stuff left over. And so I'm like piecing things together after I made all these other ones. And
Yeah.
sometimes those are the ones that I actually love the most, or the ones that I'm making with like, where I wasn't planning on them already. You know, it's one thing when you have it planned ahead of time, but then when you just have this palette in front of you and you start chopping stuff up and you're like, oh shit, this looks really cool together. Or this looks really cool together.
And you can't see that. Like you can see a lot of shit in your head, like almost more than what you can. But when you have it physically in the real world, and these are your limitations, you can come up with really neat stuff. And that's neat.
Yeah, it's cool. So I don't remember what your original question was, but
do you find the same love and passion? It sounds like you absolutely
for
do.
sure. I'm always looking forward. Like I'm already like we furnace is off right now, and we're hopefully getting ready to turn it back on. And I'm just like, oh, I can't wait. I got all these ideas for like new prep work I want to do and new patterns, and so I'm just kind of chomping at the bit, getting ready to do that.
Nice, man. Nice. And then where's the best way for people to follow you, to see your work, to purchase your work, all that good stuff?
Yeah. Follow me on Instagram at Soft Serve Glass. That's the best place. That's pretty much my only outlet for the rigs and stuff.
Okay.
And then I have shops out there carrying my work. Usually if I post a piece and it's available at a shop, I'll tag the shop in the post. I don't really sell stuff off of my Instagram because I just don't want to cut into what the shops are doing necessarily. So very, very rarely will I sell something off Instagram. If I do, it's usually something that's not something I would release normally to like the shops or something. It'll be some alternative piece or a cup or something that's not a rig. You're
definitely old school. And the reason I say that is because you brought up like one of the what I consider a big part of it. Like it's just a part of the business world is that, with Instagram, it allows these opportunities to almost snatch at a higher price. But what happens is it's not always that it's always snatched at a higher price, but it's like 3/4 of a price than what it would be, which then starts to kill the overall market. It's nicer for the blower, but it eventually, if everybody did that, we would lose these shops. And while they do make, double the keystone or to double it sometimes they sit on for maybe a week. Sometimes it's 10 years or something.
Yeah.
And, but it's all about having that and business is a bitch. I know that. And it's neat to see that you see that and respect it and use it. But there's a lot of opportunities out there as well to sell them at the full retail value too. So.
Yeah. I try to be mindful of that, especially because, in the grand scheme of the pipe world, I'd say I'm fairly new. We've been only doing this rig stuff for like 6 years now. So, just getting my foot in the door. Originally, like the first Vegas that I did, people didn't even know what to think. They were just like, what's going on? What? Soft glass? What? Huh?
I think I remember seeing that. And I just remember being, what the fuck was this? Because I've been going to Champs in Las Vegas for 18 years now. Yeah. And I remember seeing that. Like it's nobody's doing it.
I was off on the side, and it's funny because at first it was like just the glass blowers would come by and give me props. They would, it was like people that had blown soft glass but moved into boro or just had tried it before. People that I respected, and they would come by and they'd be like, holy shit, what the fuck? What are you doing? This is crazy. And getting the shops to figure out what was going on and be like, and being willing to like fork down some money, because they're not, the pieces aren't cheap. It costs actually a lot more money to blow soft glass than it does to blow boro. Like pretty much anybody can buy a torch and set something up at their house. with a kiln, but we've got to have a furnace and a glory hole and giant fucking propane tanks. And so the cost is definitely there. So if we're not efficient and productive, you know, the prices are definitely a little higher probably than some other people that are trying to just get in. So like you were saying about the doubling the price, if that's something I always tell the shops, is I'm like, you're probably not going to be able to double this wholesale price. Like you're going to probably do more of a 60-40 split or something like that.
But they understand that, and it's not bad. I mean, that's not a bad split at all.
No, it's totally normal, I think, too. And I think it's goes even farther for a lot of people, especially the higher end you go, the less of a cut those shops are getting. And that's kind of the way it should be, because somebody shouldn't be making a $10,000 rig and then the shop just buys it and then gets to get another 10 grand off it.
Right.
That's insane. I mean,
and I think they do price it like that, and then even the shop will usually run deals on it and shit like that.
Yeah.
Because I feel it needs to hold the value, and we got to create the value. And if you don't, then, and that's it too. It's not creating a value, but the education. Because if people don't know that soft glass, what it takes, it comes back to just, hey, it's just a soft glass fucking mug that was only $2 at the store. And they don't really understand that that's a fucking machine that runs 24/7, you know, every day, all year long, and it just keeps spitting this shit out, and it's not a human being. Yeah.
And you've got to have somebody else there to help you. So you're either trading time with that person and helping them, or you're paying them. And then you're either working out of a shop and paying for materials, paying for rental time, potentially, if you don't own the studio. It really starts to add up. If you try to add up all the costs of making a piece, it's ridiculous.
Right. That's nuts. Well, my hat's off to you, man. I appreciate you.
Thanks.
You know, opening up this door of Boro soft glass mixed pipe world, next level pipes in the soft glass, because nobody's doing it. So everybody needs to check it out.
Yeah. Well, hopefully there'll be more people doing it. I think we're going to start teaching some classes here. I'm supposed to go to Turkey with Big Spin and teach a class out there this summer. So shout out for that, because we're looking for a few more students. I think we only need one more student to make it happen.
This is Turkey, the country, you said, right?
Yeah, the country. Yeah, it's called the glass furnace in Turkey. I've taught out there like 2 other times. It's a phenomenal place to go. Amazing culture, super cool people. The fact that they're actually letting me go there and do a rig class is absolutely insane.
But it's they appreciate glass, I'm sure. And the rig is, like you said, just making the toilet paper tube. It was next level. And so this takes all these other skills and techniques and combines it. And I'm sure that's what they're interested in.
For sure, yeah.
So, well, great stuff there, man. And thanks a lot for spending some time here. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.